that's the breath that I have to take because Stephen Buckler is back on the podcast.
Oh.
I twixed you.
I thought we were going to start with like something soulful, and you've just set it up to fucking rip me down. All right.
No. Before we get in today, this has just come into my brain now. So we're both on the fly.
Let's do it.
I thought maybe in this episode and all future episodes, maybe we could say one thing that we have found challenging in our relationship the last week, and one thing that we have really loved about our relationship in the last week.
Okay.
So do you want to go first?
No. No, mate. You can lead the way.
Come on. You go first.
Okay.
Be my guest. What is something in our relationship the last week that you haven't liked or enjoyed? And this can be the first time that I'm hearing it too, so it's okay.
So one thing that I haven't enjoyed is sometimes, obviously, you know, we're parents together. You're a step parent. I'm a parent. Sometimes when shit goes down with the kids, I feel egoically that you hate me, and all the rage and anger that they produce within you, you deliver to me.
And all we're going to do is just let the person say. We don't have to respond. It's just open air time.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah?
Plus,
okay.
Yeah, there's no response because
it's true.
It's true.
Okay.
One thing that I've enjoyed this week is you've been cute when you're not in that space.
Tell them about it. Like last night when I was upstairs, I'm like, Daisy, why you bite me?
Yeah, just when, you know, when you observe someone in their natural element, when no one is around, right? That's when you see the truth of the person. And you finish this coaching call when you were fucking in catch on mode and blah, 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 blah. And I heard you, all right, thanks. And you hung up and then you're like, oh, Daisy, oh, bad did you do? And I'm just like, what a fucking dickhead. And I just...
And then I burped.
Yeah. And I just listened and appreciated and went, how nice is it that that is the true nature of the person that I am with?
Aww.
Because, you know, you're a good person. You're just not an asshole.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. Your turn.
Yeah, now you ask me.
Oh, okay.
This is something that really bugs me. So I will often ask Steve questions and then there's like radio silence. I'm like, you're going to ask me questions back? Like when we were in bed at night, I'm like, what did you like about your day? And he rattles off what he likes.
And then I get ready to go to sleep.
And then he gets ready to go to sleep. I'm like, you're leaving me hanging here, man, and I'm not a fan. Anyway.
What did you not enjoy about our relationship this week?
Okay. Your hands are really cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I didn't enjoy about our relationship last week was that we let the ins and outs of the girls get to us. And especially when it gets to you, like the whole mountain crumbles. And as a result, I felt like we were misaligning. I felt that like we were easily offended by one another when we would usually be able to take it as a joke and have a laugh. Yeah, I felt like there were many opportunities for us to have fights and it took way more energy to stop having a fight between the two of us. So I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy that aspect of our relationship.
Okay.
Yep. Look at your face. Oh, it's hard to not say anything back, isn't it?
No, I'm all good, man. Just wait till we press fucking pause on the recording. No, I'm kidding.
What I liked about our relationship last week was when we had Saturday night free and it was just you and I really felt like I could snuggle into you. And then you said, you know, do you want to give one another a massage? Because you didn't get your massage on. And this is not a sexual massage. Steve is laughing because you just fucking immature. And I liked that we did that. It was non-sexual. It was just, let me serve you and then you serve me.
Mm-hmm.
And why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Because I'm an 8-year-old trapped in a 46-year-old's body.
Okay, cool. So that's what I liked. And right now I don't like that you're laughing at my answer.
Oh, but it was a good answer. Oh, Daisy. Oh, man.
Cool. So I reckon we should start our monthly episodes like that.
So people can see
Yeah.
we're real,
Absolutely.
Like we have ups, we have downs.
Yeah, we're not just talking about times in our life from way back when. This is like last week. I was not a fan of Steve. Last week, he wasn't a fan of me because I was death staring him because, the way that his kids were and the way that all the dynamic was in the house. So, yeah.
Yep. And I think it's also important because it shows you that you can have conversations about it without getting triggered, without getting charged. And this is the right way to be able to clear something.
Definitely.
Yeah?
And now, like even just hearing that from Steve, I'm like, okay, I will be mindful that I don't direct my anger at him because I'm not actually angry at him, but he feels like the safer version to direct my anger toward.
Yes. That's my job. I'm here to be the rock that you can pound your wave against.
Yeah, but I get that not all the time. You're human. You are a mushy marshmallow underneath, and I need to respect that. So I will take that away.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today? I don't know. So give it to me and I will provide as best as I can.
So what I want to talk about today, I was going for a drive this morning and I thought, what do we want to talk about today on today's episode? And I thought we could share about prior to us meeting. Okay, well, firstly, what I want to talk about is conditional lists when you're creating a conditional list when it comes to wanting a relationship.
Oh, good one.
Versus tapping into the essence of the relationship that you want. And the reason I bring this up is because you had a conditional list.
Yep.
I had a conditional list. And funnily enough, as a result, you and I were friends, both with our conditional lists, and we couldn't see one another.
Yep.
Because you actually met the essence of what I wanted. I met the essence of what you wanted, but our lists were the primary, like, this is who we're searching for.
Correct. And to be fair, most people on the planet, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it, have a list. Like you might have women out there who are like, I want a banker, or like you've got like some view of
I had that.
Yeah, I know. You wanted a wanker banker.
Yeah.
I want someone who's got wealth. I want someone who's this. I want someone who's that. Kids, no kids. Like there's all these different things that you're basically setting up in your mind and unconsciously immediately deleting someone that doesn't meet that expectation or that qualification.
So I want to start by asking you, why did you create the list that you created? And tell us about the list that you did create. What was the criteria?
So I think it's important also, I want to track back, and I always do it every episode. So
it's good.
It might get boring, but it is what it is. These lists will generally, if you're not conscious, come from the same wounds that created your ego, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to automatically assume that any lists that you're creating, unless you're super conscious, you're creating from your false egoic place. And that false egoic place is created by the false wounds from your past. And therefore...
Well, they're actually wounds from the past, but then it becomes false.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because
we make it mean.
You apply beliefs to them, and then those beliefs become reality, and then you spend the rest of your life chasing that illusion, right? Yeah. So if you're egoically creating this list, then what you're actually doing is creating more dysfunction from your ego. So the person you ultimately bring in is really serving your dysfunctional ego, not your true heart. And that's where the fucking wheels fall off the cart. So getting to my egoic list.
Do you remember it?
100%. And I know why it was there. So my background was I came out of a long-term marriage. I there were a lot of things that went down towards the end of my marriage, which really wounded me. So it took me a long time before I would even open the possibility of opening my heart to someone. So for the first, 2 or 3 years, like I was dating like a demon,
Mm.
but there was no chance that anyone was getting in. So my list was actually fucking no women, no relationship again.
Mm.
And then when I finally moved past that, then I started to get into this space where it was all about protection. So
Mm.
I had been, you know, quite badly um, taken advantage of, I guess you could say. And I wanted to protect what I had. So, what I mean by that is in relation to my financial
Yep.
situation,
Yep.
right? So I had super blinkers on about the fact that, well, I want someone who, has their own wealth and their own independence, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want someone who's going to like gold digger me, or
Mm-hmm.
someone that's going to try and take advantage of me again. Then I was also pretty clear on the fact that I didn't want more kids. So my solution to that was, well, I won't date anyone who potentially will want kids in the future. So I was primarily looking for like a single mum who already had kids,
Older
right?
woman, possibly.
Or an older woman
Mm-hmm.
whose kids are already grown up, but
Mm-hmm.
basically avoiding the fact that there is no version of my life where I want kids in my future. Um, and then that was probably the main bit. But interestingly, in the background, this little voice was saying, what you actually want is just like a really feminine, caring, beautiful woman.
Mm.
So I had in the past, manifested women into my life, and even during my dating period was, could see I was pulling in the same thing, which is like, powerful women who were like successful, but who weren't
Yeah.
open,
Yeah, their
who,
heart was closed too.
yeah, their hearts were closed. You could see it was going to be a competitive environment, that it wasn't nurturing my soul. This list was
Mm.
going to nurture my,
Yeah, it was going to keep you safe.
correct. It was all
Yeah.
about keeping safe.
Mm.
So yeah, that was pretty much my list. Plus,
Yeah.
plus, the usual stuff. Good looking, attractive.
But there was nothing in there about their their being.
Not in the egoic list,
Yeah.
but in the bit
But in
underneath,
yeah, the
it
little
was
voice that
it
was,
was
and
there.
you're like, no, 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 no. And you attracted someone in that actually met all of that criteria.
Yep.
But this was missing. The heart was missing.
Yeah, correct. And I think intuitively, like deep down, I knew that it was, which is why that didn't last long. Because I was like,
Mm.
at first, it was like a candle that burned brightly and went out quickly. So
Mm.
it sort of was I think it was a matter of like 10 days. It was like, oh my god, I've met this person. Like she's perfect. You know, she's a lawyer and she makes her own money and she's got a kid and blah 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 blah. And we were like looking at houses and like
Yeah.
talking about like fucking marriage, and it was just and like my best mate was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like this is all going real quick. I'm like, no, no, perfect, perfect, perfect. And then it was like it just hit me like a freight train. Like I am recreating my previous experience, and so many
Yeah.
people listening would know what this is about, where you just keep
I
repeating the
know.
same
I
thing,
know.
right? Like,
Yeah.
why do I keep bringing in emotionally unavailable people, or why do I
That
keep
was
bringing
me.
in like wankers,
Mm-hmm.
or why do I keep bringing
Mm-hmm.
in like people that cheat or whatever it is?
Mm.
And it just was like, wow, 100%, I can see it. Excellent. Not going there. Finish that off, and then made space. And that's when um, I started to do some work with some other people.
What do you mean? Like personal development work?
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who I knew, and she said, "Oh, you should speak to this guy." And unfortunately, he's passed away now. But man, he was a game changer for me.
Oh, that was the way of the superior man when you met the.
His name was Jordan.
Yeah.
And he told me to.
Is that the lady the guy that Bryony knows?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
yeah, he passed away, and he was. She said, "Speak to this guy," and like he spoke to me. We did like specific work about the feminine,
Mm.
and he was the first guy who sort of said to me, and a caveat, because I know that this will be controversial, but he was like, women are supposed to be draining. Like the
Mm.
feminine energy and the masculine energy are polarized opposites,
Mm.
and your job is not to run away from that. Your job is to go through the feminine deeper and find your masculinity through that. And then that led me to reading The Way of the Superior Man, which, if anyone's heard of it or hasn't read
Yeah,
it,
we've spoken
it's
about it on one of our episodes.
amazing.
Yeah.
And if there was one bit out of that whole book that I'll always remember and use, it's the bit about that the masculine energy is the rock,
Mm.
and the feminine energy is the ocean, and the
Mm.
ocean's job is to smash that rock day after day after day, and the rock's job is to just not move, and that brings the stability
Mm.
into the relationship. So
Out of curiosity, for you in your life, have you had nurturing women around you?
no.
Have you? No. So you've been used to,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
That's why, like, if you go right back up to the start, like, if people want to get the full picture about how I said,
Yeah, because it's interesting because
yeah,
this is how we do create the relationships and create the lists that we create if we're not conscious.
yeah, yeah. So if you go back to my childhood, so my grandmother was the matriarch of the family, very,
Mm.
very, um, stubborn but determined and powerful woman.
She'd been through a lot of
She'd been
trauma.
through some shit. She was in the death camps in World
Mm.
War II and managed to survive that. And then came out to Australia with, you know, one suitcase, the old story that people have heard before, and then rebuilt a life for herself. Um, and so she was sort of the head of the family, and she emasculated the men in the family,
Mm.
right? So we were we were brought up not with like this loving, nurturing energy, but instead this like hard nose energy. And so what happened was is that I then built my definition of love based on that, and my definition
Mm.
of love was based on the concept of if you perform, then you receive love,
Mm.
right? So I remember in like primary school, we used to bring our report cards to her like we were fucking reporting to the boss. And my brother would always get a better report card than me. And she used to call me Mr. Average.
Mm.
And so it really was about if you produced a good report card, then you got lots of praise and love. And if you didn't, well, you're a fuck up, right?
Mm.
So there was that. And then my own mother was sort of middle of the road. She wasn't overly nurturing or under nurturing, but because there was this powerful force, mum really took a back seat,
Right.
and the men in the family were
Didn't
sort of
stand up.
didn't stand up for that.
Yeah.
And so then I basically went about attracting women into my life that were the same as that. Now you might hear this and go, why the fuck would you do that? It's like, you're doing it too, dudes. You just
Yeah.
don't realize it, because what happens is
And you weren't doing that consciously. It was literally happening.
happening,
Yeah.
because you sit there and you're like, oh, here's this
Feels familiar.
woman that I've met who's
Yeah.
like, powerful and will like, emasculate men, and is driven. And it's like, why does this feel so familiar to me?
Yeah.
Why does this feel love?
It feels like home, but it's not.
Correct. It's not what
Yeah.
you want, but it's what you attract.
Yes.
And so it took a lot to break that cycle and to bring someone like you in,
Mm.
because you're not meant to be here.
Yeah.
Like, egoically, you're not meant to be here. You're challenging my ego all the fucking time.
Mm.
Like, I'll give you an example. So, Kat doesn't care for the material. Like, don't get me wrong, she's happy to have it, but
Yeah, I
she's
like
also
nice
happy
things.
to not
Yeah.
have it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, like, early on in our relationship, I think it was when I got a new car for you or something, and we were in the kitchen, and
No, you were working really hard. And I said to you, just like take a break.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And basically it like fucked with me, because I'm like, here's this person who's actually saying, hey, like, just like take the day off, like
Mm,
relax
mm,
and
mm.
whatever. And my ego's taken that as, you're not appreciating like all
All
the
that I'm
work that I'm
doing.
doing. You're supposed to, in my world, if I do this, you're meant to give me love, and you're doing the opposite. You're actually taking love away because I'm working, because you know that it's not what it's about.
Mm.
And I remember we had this big fucking blow up. And yeah, so it's always a challenge, because you've got someone sitting here who goes against what egoically you've been conditioned to have.
Mm.
But it is truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's my story.
Yeah, and for me, with my conditional lists, a lot of them were about like, I mean, I know it's a terminology called banker wankers, but they had to be good looking, they had to be X tall, they had to provide this, the list of things, right? What I never put on there for a long time was to be emotionally available. And I grew up with a dad who's a beautiful, beautiful dad. He provided for us. He did, all the things to send us to school, give us a good home, etc. But in terms of emotional availability, that was there sometimes, but not there most of the time. And so a lot of how I felt or what I wanted to share, what I wanted to say went buried. I buried it. Or I found other ways to express it through drugs and, doing other stupid stuff. So then as a result, what felt familiar for me unconsciously was men who were there in many facets, but who couldn't hold my heart. If I go to the core of it, it was a man that couldn't hold my heart. And I would attract all these awesome dudes in, doing cool things in the world, really nice, really lovely, all the rest. But I never gave them my heart because why would I? That I don't know how to give my heart. I don't trust you with my heart. So therefore, I was always in these relationships or dating someone and it felt empty. We might have looked good walking down the street or did some cool things, but it didn't fill my heart space, So it's like what you talked about, the continuous patterned, I literally would attract the same type of person, just dressed differently, look differently. One had blonde hair, one had a shaved head, one had, different colored skin. But the same pattern was there. And anytime I maybe if we crossed over a certain threshold and I started to share my heart, see you later. They ran, and so therefore my belief system kept getting fulfilled. That men aren't there for you. They can't hold you. So keep your truth silent because that's the only way you're going to be able to get a man. Until look at Daisy.
Mm.
If anyone's not watching this on
Looking.
YouTube, we've got Daisy sitting on my lap and she's just such a stupid little monkey. So yeah, when I met Steve, the interesting part is, like, Steve and I were friends for 2 years and it was easy to give you my heart because you were my mate. There was no skin, quite literally, in the game. So having you show up as my partner who listens and holds me, hugs me. If I've got something going on, you're like, just say it, share it, tell me. Like you will know when I'm off. You'll know when I'm funky, and you're like, oh, I'm going to give you 10 seconds and for you to speak and for you to share, whereas I just went, what I was used to was awkward energy of just holding things in, knowing that the other person could feel my awkward energy, knowing that knowing that I knew and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of sitting in that. But you just go straight for the jugular.
Mm.
You go straight for my heart. And that's fucking scary. And I always say this, like with my clients who come and see me and they're wanting to bring in like that real relationship. I'm like, hell yeah, let's bring it in. But let me just tell you, your ego is going to fucking find this so hard.
Yeah.
Because you and I, 6 years in, keep defying the ego story, our own ego stories. And every time it dies a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably good for you because you got lucky because the first three things on your list, which was good looking,
Oh my gosh.
tall.
Well, it's actually true.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fluffing myself. So now that we've talked about the list and where
conditional
it comes
list,
from
yeah.
and whatever,
Yeah.
the big question that you're going is, all right, fucking shut up now. Like, so how do I not do that?
Yeah.
So you want to elaborate on this, or you want me to give my version?
You go
And
yeah.
yeah,
I just spoke for a bit.
so so fundamentally, what you want to do is you want to fuck that list off in every way, shape, and form. Because the other thing that Kat had on her list is no dudes with kids, right? That's a
That's
massive one that was
true.
on the list,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Um,
Yeah.
so um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
totally.
So you had one guy here that's like, I don't want a chick that doesn't have kids that might want kids, and Kat at the time was 29, I think, when we got together.
No, we were 32 when I got together. We were 29 when I was
Oh, okay.
29 when we got
So
friends.
32. So she was like in prime, like, oh yeah, give me a baby season. And I had two kids that were like already, in
5?
5 and 7.
Yeah.
So she was landing into like
No,
fucking,
they were 7 and 9 when I came in. They were 5 and 7 when I met
yeah,
you. Yeah, as friends.
proper stepmom land. So um, so the way that you move beyond that is you put the list aside, and instead what you do is you tune in. And when we say tune in, all that means is put yourself into a place where you can really just have space,
Mm,
and you think about what does the end result, what does your relationship feel like?
mm,
So it doesn't have to be a face or anything. You just think, when I have my partner,
mm,
what will that relationship feel like? And you
mm.
can do it for yourself. You can do it for someone else. We've had friends come to us and they're like, hey, what do you think? And then we actually all sit down together and we all think about this person and the
But we go
energy.
out of thinking though.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we all tune in and we feel into what
Feel
the
into.
energy of their partner feels like. And
Mm,
and everyone will spit out the same answer.
yeah.
Like, it'll be, if someone tuned in for me to be like, your partner's going to be, loving and caring and joyful and have this essence, and it's like,
Mm,
bang, there it is. So
mm.
then what happens is once you define the feeling of the person, then you stop looking at the conditions and you
Yeah.
start to engage with people and go,
Yes.
does
Is
this
there a
person
match? Is there an
deliver
energetic
this,
match?
yeah, this energy to me?
Yeah.
And that's what Kat started doing, because
Yes.
it was you first.
Correct. I was
Tell
doing,
them.
yeah. So I was doing, while Steve and I were friends, I was doing, because I was so sick of the guys that I was attracting thanks to my conditional list. And so what I did is I would close my eyes and I would feel into and envision what kind of relationship that I'd be in, not what he looked like, not how broad he was, how tall he was, or anything like that. It was the feeling and feelings of, it was warm, it was safe, it was comfortable, like laughter, all those wonderful things, and what it felt was real and honest, etc. And I had been tapping into that for nearly 2 years, and I was single. I was dating a few people at the time, but I was, predominantly single. And so I had a really clear feeling of what the energy of my man slash relationship would be like, right? And there was one night I was at your place, and Steve and I would hang out, we'd watch movies, we'd have dinner, all that kind of stuff beforehand, and completely platonic. And there was one night he went to take the girls to bed, and he had his back to go down a set of stairs, and you had your black t-shirt on and your jeans on, and it was like I saw and
I was
felt.
holding me, wasn't I? Didn't I have me
Uh,
in my arms going down?
I think you did.
Mm.
I saw and felt this invisible cord. It literally felt like a cord between the back of Steve and the back of his heart and the front of mine and middle of my chest. And I was like, what the fuck? No. So my ego list reared back up, and it's like, no, 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 no. This guy's 9 years older than you. He's got kids. He's in the middle of like messy, messy, lawyer land. Um, Not a chance. Steve is a mate,
Mm.
but the energetic match, it was there. I could not deny it. I did my best, believe me. I shoved it, buried it. He came back. I'm like, see ya. Have a great night. I'm going home. He's like, all right, whatever. But I full turned awkward. And I remember like our friend Tommy, he was like, oh, how come, like you left because I think Tommy was there too. How come you left? Blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, this thing came up. Oh, I don't want to hang out with Steve because what if he plays with my hair and then I like it and then I like him more and he's like, oh my gosh, you're hilarious. Anyway,
This is the first I've ever heard.
yeah,
So you actually chatted to Tom about
I,
it?
I chatted to Tom about it. Yeah,
Oh.
because I said, sometimes when I'm over there and we're hanging out, like you might just like twirl my hair completely as friends. And I'm like, if I go back there and that happens, I don't know what might happen after that. So I have to just stay away.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Um, anyway, so that's what happened. I was envisioning it and feeling it, envisioning it and feeling it. And funnily enough, I always saw in the vision that I was driving down like a coastal road with whoever this person was. The person didn't have any form, but he had his hand on my lap. The roof was off, and it was a blue sky, sunny day. And the most gnarly thing after Steve and I were on and off for 6 months, when we finally got properly together, the first date that Steve took me on, he picked me up. He had a convertible. It was a blue sunny day. And I got into the car and you surprised me, drove us down to Mornington. So drove along the coastal line and he had his hand on my lap and I was like, oh my fucking God. But I didn't force that. That vision and that feeling came to me. And every day I would just feel into it and play with it and say, okay, cool, you're there. I trust you. And when that person shows and reveals, I'll know. And see, the thing is, when he was putting the kids to bed, I did know, but we didn't get together for another 6 months.
Mm.
So just because then and there, like, oh my gosh, there's an energetic match, doesn't mean it's going to happen then and there, because there's some karmic shit that you might need to go through the other person. There's free will as well. But yeah, that was my experience.
Mm. So if you sort of wrap this up, because I'm watching your little clock and I'm like, I don't know how long you want this thing to go for, but there's a few elements that come into it. So the first part is, if you're one of these dot list people like me, you're like, fuck, all right, so what's the fucking the recipe? So recipe one, find some space, 10 minutes, put on some nice music, tune in, feel into what your ultimate relationship would feel like. And then just jot down, like, not the list, the
The
feelings that you
feelings.
get when you're with this
Yeah.
person, right? And then once you have that, then you effectively have tapped into the energy, the energetic relationship. And then you allow the laws of the universe to
Yeah.
work, right? I am a
Absolutely.
big believer in the law of attraction. I'm a big believer in thoughts become things. I'm a big believer in, what you focus on, comes into your life, right? Where energy
Mm.
focus goes, energy flows. All
Mm.
those things work. I know it in my heart because I've used them.
Mm.
So once you have this, you don't then get all fucking needy and go and like find it. You
No.
just you just
No.
stay with it every day. Keep
Yeah.
thinking about it. If you're single and you're dating, then just keep tuning into that. If you're swiping your apps, before you swipe, there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with swiping. Just make sure that you are tuned into the energy of what you want, not your
Mm.
list, because you're going to swipe differently.
Yeah, it's true.
If you're swiping with your
That's
list
true.
in mind, right, then anyone without D-sized tits is a no, right?
Mm.
If you swipe with your energy, someone's eyes will come across the page and you'll be like, that feels right.
Mm.
So
Such a different way of
you
doing it, isn't
you,
it?
you allow that process to happen, tune into the law of attraction, and then just wait. And when you meet someone, same deal, right? If you're going on a first date or if you're going on a date with somebody, just before you open the door to go in, be tuned into that energy, because that's going to allow you to get rid of all the other stuff and to actually
Mm.
see if the person sitting in front of you
Yeah.
is your potential person, not the bullshit egoic story that you have created about what this person has to be. Now, big caveat and all that. I'm not saying that, you could energetically meet someone and then like there's a whole bunch of other things that, like don't work. I'm not saying that, you have to throw all that out. We're just saying start with the end in mind,
Mm.
right? When you start a business, you start with the end result in mind. You know where you want to go and then you take the steps towards it. It's the same with love.
Yeah.
Start with the proper end in mind, not the false end result
Mm.
of these conditional lists, but instead with the energy of it. And if you do, then you get
Yay.
us.
But can I quickly ask before we sign off?
No.
When
No, I'm done for
you
the day.
when that
35 minutes to finish.
that conditional list that you had,
Yep.
what made you shift from that? How did you shift from that? I shared mine, like with my little practice. What was it for you?
So mine was, we were both in Bali,
Mm.
and Kat messaged and said, "Oh, you're in Bali, can we catch up?"
Did you
And
like me before Bali, or was I just a mate for you?
no, nothing.
Yeah, same. Oh no, that's not true.
No.
I had the snap. I had the energy snap. Yeah.
I just wasn't aware that you'd had the energy snap. Anyway, so
Yeah.
Kat said,
I
"Oh,
wasn't gonna fucking tell you.
why don't we hang out?" So she came over to this villa, and then we rode down. I drove her on a scooter down to the beach, and I was being a fuckwit, and I kept like slamming the brakes to make her boobs hit the back of my back because I'm just a dickhead, and I was trying to get her helmet to hit mine, and then we were on the beach, and I think I said, "Why don't we do eye gaze?" No, I was saying, "I bet I could see into your soul."
Yeah.
And you said, "No, you couldn't."
No. We did this eye gazing thing about where we're going to be, where I feel uncomfortable.
That's right.
And you, from like super close, I was fine. But when you stepped back and you could really see me, I fucking like,
Yeah. And there was this moment on that beach when I was looking at you, and I just felt like I looked straight into your fucking soul, and from that moment I was like, "Uh-oh." Like, fuck, that's not good. And then I remember going home back to the villa, and that was where we had our first kiss.
Yeah.
And I remember we kissed,
yeah,
and
we
I jumped
both jumped out of the
straight
pool.
out of the pool, and I went into the mirror in the bathroom, and I looked at myself, and I'm like, "Don't you fuck this up. Like, this is Kat.
Yeah.
If you want to get laid, like, do it somewhere else." And that night we went to dinner, and I just couldn't stop fucking.
I know, you were staring into me.
It was
into me.
And then after that, it was a painful 6 months.
It was.
Every
Back
time I
and
tried to fuck
forth
you off, my heart would just be like, "That's home."
Yeah.
So when it happens, you'll and this is the other thing, when it happens, you're gonna feel it. It's gonna hit you deep. But be aware that it might not hit you the same way that your conditional list will hit you.
Yeah.
It feels different. So yeah.
Definitely. That was a goodie.
Yeah, good work.
High five.
I like your sister.
We chose each other.
Yeah.
That's good.
Until next time, this has been Stevie B with my special guest,
What?
Kat John. We'll see you next month.